Okay guys, I'm so sorry we have multiple choice questions again, so please be ready. In part 4 and part 1, multiple choice questions are pretty unusual. If you get them in part 1 and part 4, it means it is something like old tests, right? But anyways, we'll do that. Research on questions about doctors. Now what's the topic? The topic is research on questions about doctor. Like people ask different questions about doctors and there is a research on that. Question number 31. In order to set up her research program, Shona got. Okay, so Shona is the name here, all right? I pronounced it differently, sorry about that. In order to set up her research program, she got what? Let's see. Option A, advice. Main word is advice. She got advice from personal friends in other countries. So underline advice, personal friends, and other countries. Option B, help from students in other countries. Underline help, students, other countries. And option C, information from her tutor's contact. So information from tutor's contact. Tutor's contacts means tutors another student. Like you need some help and I say I have another student, she will help you. If I put you through to her, it means contacts from tutor's contacts, right? Now let's see this lady, her name is, what is the name? Look at you, huh? It's coming out from your heart, Shona. Okay, so in order to set up a research program, Shona got what? Advice, personal friends, other countries, help, other students, or information from tutors' contacts.
You will hear a student called Shona giving a presentation on her research report.
I've been doing some research into what people in Britain think of doctors, the ones who work in general practice, the first call for medical care, and comparing this with the situation in a couple of other countries. I want to talk about the rationale behind what I decided to do. Now, I had to set up my program of research in 3 different countries, so I approached postgraduates in my field in overseas departments, contacting them by email to organize things for me at their end. I thought I would have trouble recruiting help, but in fact, everyone was very willing, and sometimes their tutors got involved too.
See, sometimes there were tutors that got involved too. They did not talk about tutors' contacts. They said sometimes there were tutors that got involved too. And she did not talk about her personal friends. So, correct answer is option B. I'm playing it again. Don't worry.
You will hear a student called think of doctors, the ones who work in general practice. I want to talk about the rationale behind what I decided to do. Now, I had to set up my program of research in 3 different countries.
Okay, now 3 different countries. From there we understand she will talk about countries.
So I approached postgraduates in my field in overseas departments.
So I approached postgraduates in my field in overseas departments. Option A is about personal friends. She didn't talk about that. Okay, option A is gone. Postgraduates in overseas from the same field.
Contacting them by email to organize things for me at their end.
Okay, so that is help from students in other countries. Now, why option C is wrong? That is important.
I thought I would have trouble recruiting help, but in fact, everyone was very willing, and sometimes their tutors got involved too.
Everyone was willing and sometimes their tutors were involved too. Means tutors also helped me. But option C, tutors' contacts. They did not mention tutors' contacts. They only discussed tutors. So correct answer is B. Question number 32. What type of people were included in the research? Option A, young people, first job. Option B, men working or working men. Option C, women unemployed. Okay, so you're just going to focus these big words. Don't focus all the option. So type of people were included in the research.
I had to give my helpers clear instructions about what kind of sample population I wanted them to use. I decided that people under 18 should be excluded because most of them are students or looking for their first job. And also I decided at this stage just to focus on men who were in employment and set up something for people who didn't have jobs and for employed women later on as a separate investigation.
Okay, just focus on men. So Shona only focused on men, right? C is women later on. And option A, young people, she said excluded, right? So correct answer is option B. Let's go on. Question number 33. Shona says that in her questionnaire, her aim was. Now, questionnaire is a list of questions. There are so many questions which you have to answer with options and all that. So, in her questionnaire, her aim was option A, get a wide range of data. Underline wide range of data. Option B, limit people's response. Option C, guide people through interview. So what was her aim in the questionnaire?
And how many?
I specifically wanted to do a questionnaire and interviews with a focus group. With the questionnaire, rather than limiting it to one specific point, I wanted to include as much variety as possible. I know questionnaires are a very controlled way to do things, but I thought I could do taped interviews later on to counteract the effects of this. And the focus group may also prove useful in future by targeting subjects I can easily return to, as the participants tend to be more involved.
So, A, okay, that's correct. Please listen again.
I specifically wanted to do a questionnaire and interviews with a focus group. With the questionnaire, rather than limiting it to one specific point, I wanted to include as much variety as possible.
Okay, with the questionnaire, I wanted to improve as much variety as possible. What is the purpose? To get a wide range of data. So, wide range of data, as much variety as possible.
I know questionnaires are a very controlled way to do things.
I know questionnaires are very controlled way to do things. That is option B, limit people's response. But she didn't mention this as her aim.
But I thought I could do taped interviews later on.
I could do interviews later on. So option C is later on.
To counteract the effects of this. And the focus group...
Okay, question number 34. What do Shona's initial results show about medical services in Britain? Underline initial results show. And we know the topic is medical services in Britain. So initial results show. Option A, current concerns are misrepresented by press. Just underline misrepresented by press. Press means media. It means media is giving the wrong information. Media is giving the false news. So when they talk about media, newspapers, and they are giving wrong news, A will be the right answer. Option B, financial issues are critical to the government. So underline financial, critical, and financial issues, critical, and government. If that is critical financial issues, B will be the right answer. Reforms within hospitals have been unsuccessful. Just underline unsuccessful reforms. Reforms are changes. So changes are unsuccessful. Now, let's see initial results show about medical services in Britain.
So I'm just collating the results now. At the moment, it looks as if in the UK, despite the fact that newspapers continually report that people are unhappy with medical care, in fact, it is mainly the third level of care, which takes place in hospitals, that they are worried about. Government reforms have been proposed at all levels, and although their success is not guaranteed, long-term hospital care is in fact probably less of an issue than the media would have us believe. However, I've still got quite a bit of data to look at.
So, A, alright, listen again and make sure why.
So
A
I'm
is
just
right.
collating the results now. At the moment, it looks as if in the UK, despite the fact that newspapers continually report that people are unhappy with
Okay, newspapers continuously report that people are unhappy with medical.
medical care, in fact, it is mainly the third level of care, which takes place in hospitals, that they
Okay, so that is third level of care, right, which is in hospitals. So current concerns are misrepresented. In the newspaper, they are talking about medical care, but she's saying that is third level of care in the hospitals. So that is misrepresented.
are worried about. Government reforms have been proposed at all levels, and although their success is not guaranteed,
Okay, government reforms have been proposed at all levels, but their success is not guaranteed. Now, success is not guaranteed does not mean they have been unsuccessful. I mean, they had just done it, so the result will come in the future. It's not option C.
long-term hospital care is in fact probably less of an issue than the media would have us believe.
Okay, it would be less of an issue that the media would have us believe. It means media is misrepresenting the things and all that. So A will be the right answer here. Now, question number 35, Shona needs to do further research in order to. In order to means purpose. Further research and in order to. Present the government with her findings. Present findings, government. Decide level of extra funding needed. Decide extra funding needed. And option C, identify the preferences of public. Identify preferences public. So why is she doing extra research? Yeah, what is the purpose of doing further research?
Certainly, I will need to do more far-reaching research than I had anticipated in order to establish if people want extra medical staff invested in the community, or if they want care to revert to fewer but larger key medical units. The solution may well be something that can be easily implemented by those responsible in local government, with central government support, of course.
So, correct answer is C. That's right. Listen why.
Certainly, I will need to do more far-reaching research than I had anticipated in order to establish if people want extra medical staff invested in the community.
Okay, if people want extra medical staff invested into community, that is their preference.
Or if they want care to revert to fewer,
Or if they want. Now, people want this or people want that, it means preference. Remember one thing, whenever they use the word preference in any option, they use the word this or that. This or that means preference, okay? Next, question number 36. Shona has learned from the research project that. What has she learned? Option A, it is important to plan projects carefully. Underline plan projects carefully. Option B, people do not like answering questions. So, not like answering questions. People not like answering questions. And option C, colleagues do not always agree. Colleagues not agree. So, Shona has learned from the research project that.
this first stage has proved very valuable, though. I was surprised by how willing most of the subjects were to get involved in the project. I had expected some unwillingness to answer questions honestly, but I was taken aback and rather concerned that something I thought I'd set up very well didn't necessarily seem that way to everyone in my own department.
Didn't seem very well in my own department. In my own department means colleagues. So colleagues do not always agree. Please listen again.
This first stage has proved very valuable, though. I was surprised by how willing most of the subjects were to get involved in the
I
project.
was surprised how willing most of the subjects were. Subjects are people on which you do the experiment. Option B, people do not like answering questions. She said they were willing to answer the questions. So it's not B.
I had expected some unwillingness to answer questions honestly, but I was taken aback and rather concerned that something I thought I'd set up very well didn't
Okay, I was taken aback. Taken aback means surprised. Something I thought I set up very well.
necessarily seem that taken aback and rather concerned that something I thought I'd set up very well didn't necessarily seem that way to everyone in my own department.
Okay, didn't seem the same way in my own department means colleagues do not always agree. Alright, now we've got questions 37 to 40. Which statement applies to each of the following people who were interviewed by Shona? So statement and people we are going to match. Now, when they give you half a minute to read the questions, or when you have to read the questions, it's better to read the options. Option A, false data. Somebody gave her false data. False data. Option B, decided to stop participating. Stop participating. Like for example, somebody answered a couple of questions and then he pulled out. Pulled out means that no, thank you, I don't want to answer any question, cancel my name and all that. So stop participating means pull out. For example, if you say I'm pulling out from IELTS exam, I'm pulling myself out means you are not participating there. Option C, refused to tell Shona about her job. For example, Shona asked her, what work do you do? What do you do? And he said, sorry, I cannot tell you. So refused to tell her about the job. Okay. Option D, kept changing their mind about participating. For example, first said, okay, I will answer the question. Then said, no, sorry, I will not. Then again, okay, I answered, or again, no, I will not. So kept changing mind. Option E, became very angry with Shona. Unne patthar chuk liya, jutti chuk li, nas jaye to. Okay, so became very angry with Shona. Like somebody said, shut up, go away from here. I will not answer your silly questions and all that. So it's that. And option F was worried about confidentiality. One person said, please don't tell my name. Please don't tell them about me. Okay, don't give my personal details. So that is worried about confidentiality. Now, people interviewed by Shona. 37. Person interviewed in the street. And then she started interview. Okay, so person interviewed in street, and you will match A, B, C, D with that.
I thought you might also be interested in some of the problems I encountered in collecting my data. There were odd cases that threw me. One of the subjects who I had approached while he was out shopping in town decided to pull out when it came to the second round. It was a shame.
Okay, he decided to pull out when it came to the second round. It was a shame. Decided to pull out means decided to stop participating. Okay, so if you know these words, this language, then you can answer easily. B will be the right answer for question number 37. Question number 38, undergraduate at the university.
And one of the first-year students I interviewed wanted reassurance that no names would be traceable from the answers. I was so surprised because they think nothing of telling you about themselves and their opinions in seminar groups.
Okay, no names would be traced. No names would be traced means was worried about confidentiality. When you want to hide your name and all that, you know, when you give all the news and then you say, Kise nu dassi na. Okay, so that is all confidentiality. So F is the right answer for 38. Now, 39.
Then one of the people that
colleague in her department. She interviewed a colleague in her department.
Then one of the people that I worked with got a bit funny. The questions were quite personal, and one minute he said he'd do it. Then the next day he wouldn't. And in the end, he did do it.
Okay, he do it, he didn't do it, he did do it. So he kept changing his mind. So that is option D. Well done. Question number 40, a tutor in a foreign university.
The most bizarre case was a telephone interview I did with a teacher at a university in France. He answered all my questions in great detail, but then when I asked how much access he had to dangerous substances, he wouldn't tell me exactly what his work involved.
He wouldn't tell exactly what his work involved. What does it mean? Refused to tell Shona about their job. Right? He wouldn't tell exactly what his work involved. Right? So C will be the right answer for question number 40. That's great.